The world woke up to flashing headlines. Breaking. China's Xi desperately asked the Philippines to stop. The real reason revealed. News tickers scrolled across screens in every major city. Anchors spoke in urgent tones. Images of Navy ships and angry crowds filled the airwaves. It was the lead story everywhere, from New York to Tokyo. Overnight, tension in the South China Sea had reached a boiling point. Chinese naval vessels faced off against Philippine Coast Guard ships near a disputed reef. Social media exploded with videos of water cannons and warning shots. Hashtags trended: Warn South China Sea, Mangsai desperate, Ma stand with Philippines. In Beijing, President Xi Jinping called an emergency press conference. His message was clear, but anxious. He pleaded with the Philippines to halt their latest patrols and construction efforts. In Manila, President Marcos Jr. responded by vowing to defend his nation's rights. The world watched, holding its breath. Could this be the moment that changes Asia forever? The South China Sea has always been a hotspot, a place where tensions simmered just beneath the surface. It is a vast stretch of ocean, dotted with hundreds of small islands, reefs and atolls, many of which are barely visible above the waves. Many countries claim parts of it, but none as loudly or as forcefully as China, which insists on its historical rights over nearly the entire sea. For years, China has built artificial islands and military bases here, transforming reefs into fortified outposts, equipped with runways, radar systems, and missile batteries. They say the sea belongs to them. The Philippines, however, strongly disagrees, citing international law and a 2016 tribunal ruling in its favor. Filipino fishermen want to work these waters, relying on them for their livelihoods, and their government insists the area is part of their territory and exclusive economic zone. This dispute has led to many tense moments, with ships from both sides shadowing each other and sometimes coming dangerously close. Several times ships have collided, causing damage and raising fears of escalation. Warnings have been shouted over loudspeakers, with sailors exchanging heated words. Sometimes tempers flare dangerously, and the risk of miscalculation grows. Other countries like Vietnam and Malaysia also claim pieces of the sea, adding more layers to this complex dispute. But right now, the world is watching China and the Philippines most closely, as their standoff has become the focal point of international concern. Both sides refuse to back down, each determined to defend what they see as their rightful territory. The ocean between them feels smaller every day, as ships and planes crowd the waves and skies, increasing the risk of accidental clashes. This region matters to everyone, not just those who live nearby. Trillions of dollars in trade pass through these waters each year, making the South China Sea one of the world's busiest and most important shipping routes. Any conflict here could affect the whole world, disrupting global supply chains and threatening the stability of the international economy. Suddenly, China changed its tone. President Xi Jinping's government sent a direct and urgent message to the Philippines. The demand was simple: stop all construction and patrols at once. China said Philippine actions near Second Thomas Shoal were provocative and illegal. The message was broadcast in every major language. Behind closed doors, Chinese diplomats made frantic phone calls to Manila. They warned of serious consequences if the Philippines did not back down. At the same time, Chinese warships circled the area, engines humming, ready for orders. The Chinese public was told that their country's patience was wearing thin. In Manila, the government received letter after letter from Beijing. Some were official, others were personal pleas from Chinese leaders, begging for calm. The pressure was intense. Philippine officials described the messages as desperate and surprising. It was clear, China needed the Philippines to stop, and they needed it badly. Why was China, a nation that usually projects unwavering confidence on the world stage, suddenly pleading for restraint and caution? The real reasons behind this shift go much deeper than what the headlines suggest or what official statements reveal. Beneath the surface, inside China, serious economic trouble is brewing and spreading anxiety among both leaders and ordinary citizens. The country's once booming economy is now slowing down, with growth rates falling far below expectations and consumer confidence at a low point. Factories are shutting their doors, jobs are vanishing, and millions of young people are growing increasingly restless and frustrated with their prospects. Many believe Xi Jinping is deeply worried about a potential crisis erupting at home, one that could threaten his grip on power. Any conflict with the Philippines could easily turn public anger away from foreign rivals and directly against the Chinese government itself. Such a fight could disrupt China's vital trade, scare off much-needed investors, and push even more countries to unite against Beijing's interests. Xi knows that a regional war would be disastrous for China right now, both economically and politically. On top of all this, there is mounting international pressure from the world's most powerful nations. The United States and its allies have openly promised to support the Philippines, making the stakes even higher for Beijing. If fighting breaks out, China could find itself facing a powerful coalition of enemies, united in opposition. This could leave China more isolated than ever before, damaging its global ambitions and weakening its influence. For Xi Jinping, the stakes are not just political, they are deeply personal. His carefully crafted image as a strong, unshakable leader is now on the line, both at home and abroad. If he fails to control this crisis, Xi risks losing the support of his people and the respect of the international community, putting his leadership and China's future at risk. Inside smoky diplomatic rooms, leaders and advisors argued deep into the night, their voices echoing off the walls as tension simmered in the air. The stakes were high, and every word carried weight, as the fate of nations seemed to hang in the balance. In Beijing, the mood was tense, with officials gathered in a room heavy with anticipation and uncertainty. Some officials pushed for a show of force, insisting that strength was the only language their rivals would understand. Others, however, whispered warnings about the dangers ahead: economic collapse, international condemnation, and the risk of political backlash at home. Xi Jinping listened intently, weighing every word and carefully considering each argument. He knew that any decision could have far-reaching consequences, not just for China, but for the entire region. Over in Manila, President Marcos Jr. convened with his top military commanders and foreign policy experts, determined to chart a course through the crisis. Maps covered the walls, marked with strategic points and possible flashpoints, as advisors debated whether to keep pushing forward or to pause and open the door to negotiation. Some urged caution, fearing China's overwhelming power and the risks of escalation. But others argued passionately that it was time to stand firm, defend their country's rights, and show the world that the Philippines would not be intimidated. Behind the scenes, the United States and Japan sent envoys, quietly offering support, intelligence, and strategic advice to the Philippines. Their presence was a reminder that the world was watching, and alliances mattered. In return, these allies asked Manila to keep calm, avoid rash moves, and do everything possible to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. European diplomats joined the talks as well, urging both sides to respect international law and seek peaceful solutions. Every conversation felt urgent, every negotiation fraught with the possibility of miscalculation. Every decision made in these rooms could shape the future of the region for years to come, influencing not just borders, but the lives of millions. No one wanted to make the wrong move, knowing that a single misstep could ignite a crisis that would be impossible to contain. On the streets of Beijing, people gathered to watch the news. Some cheered their navy, while others worried about what a conflict could mean for their families. Social media was, just full of debate. Some users called for strong action, but many pleaded for peace and warned against war. In Manila, emotions ran high. Fishermen were angry about losing access to the sea. University students waved Philippine flags and marched in protest, demanding their government defend national territory. Newspapers ran bold headlines, and talk radio buzzed with opinions, ranging from hope to fear. Leaders in both countries gave speeches and interviews. Xi Jinping promised to protect China's dignity. President Marcos Jr. told his people, we will not be bullied. Both leaders tried to sound strong, but honestly their faces showed worry. In both nations, ordinary people feared for the future. No one wanted war, but no one wanted to give up either. Across Asia, governments watched the crisis closely. In Tokyo and Seoul, leaders called emergency meetings. Vietnam and Malaysia strengthened patrols near disputed islands. Australia and India issued statements urging calm. The whole region braced for what might come next. The United States moved ships closer to the area as a warning to China. NATO leaders met in Brussels to discuss possible responses. In Singapore, trade experts worried that shipping could be blocked, hurting businesses everywhere. Smaller countries feared getting caught in the middle. Indonesia and Thailand sent quiet messages to both sides, asking for peace. ASEAN, the regional group, called for urgent talks and offered to help mediate. Every country knew that a mistake could set off a chain reaction. The fate of Asia, and maybe the world, seemed to hang by a thread. If China and the Philippines clash, the consequences could be huge. Trade would suffer, ships might avoid the South China Sea, slowing the global economy. Oil prices could spike, investors would panic, stock markets could fall, people in both countries would feel the pain. Factories could close, jobs could be lost, and families separated by war. Tourists would stay away. China's dream of becoming a world leader would be damaged. The Philippines could face hardship and even greater danger. Other countries would have to choose sides. Old alliances could break and new ones form. The United Nations might be forced to step in. The balance of power in Asia would shift. All this could happen in just a few days. The cost of conflict would be high. Peace, everyone agreed, would be much better. As the crisis continues, no one knows what will happen next. Talks are ongoing, but tension remains high. Both sides say they want peace, but neither wants to lose face. The world waits and worries. This standoff is about much more than islands or fishing rights. It is a test for all of Asia. Can the region find a way to solve its disputes without violence? Can leaders listen to their people and avoid disaster? The answers will shape the future for millions. For now, all eyes remain on the South China Sea. Every move, every word, matters. The real reason behind China's desperate plea has been revealed, but whether it leads to peace or war is still unknown. History is being written in these waters. What happens next will echo far beyond their shores.